empowerment, where is the Indian woman today? We have on stage Yogini Deshpande, practicing civil engineer, coordinator of India. Somdutta Singh, author, investor, entrepreneur, co-chair, NASCOM and TEDx. Gayatri Iyer, curator at Indian Academy, writer and Yogini. Shubhrastha, author and columnist. The session will be moderated by Pallavi, Joshi, Indian film and television artist.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be talking about women empowerment on a full stomach. In an air-conditioned room. Thank you, Makranji, for that. But I have a little complaint. Every time we talk about women's issues or anything regarding women, why do we have only women panelists?
True. Very true.
They don't want men to interfere. So we can scare it.
No, I think for any idea or any movement to be successful, you always need an objective view. And I think that can only come with men where women's issues are concerned. But so we'll take some, questions from you for sure. So think about it. So we have a wonderful panel here, and all extremely successful, intelligent women of today's India. It's very different from the time when I was growing up, and the opportunities were far lesser. But I must say, I want to start this on a positive note, that things have changed quite a bit since I was young and I was starting out my career. And I see a positive change. But I'll tell you where the problem lies, even now. We have a lot of girls who are being educated today than they were a few years ago. Yet, in the remotest of villages, we still don't have schools. A lot of girls, boys too, they have to travel, they have to walk to the nearest district school, which could be several kilometers away. Sometimes they have to walk through dense jungles. Sometimes they have to take paths where you see no other human being. And it may be fine in the beginning, but when a girl comes of age, the mother is always scared to leave her alone. The father is always scared to leave her alone. And maybe that's the reason somewhere that the girl's education gets stunted, is stopped when she hits a puberty. Now for this, we need to get the schools down to the last district, the last remotest corners of India, if we want to talk about women's education, if we want to talk about women enjoying equal rights in our country. So on that note, I want to throw this discussion open to all these lovely women I have here with me today. And before we speak about empowerment or identity, I would like all of you to make your opening statement in regards to feminism. This word feminism has changed its meaning over the course of years. What does feminism mean to you today? We'll start with you, Yogini.
Thanks, Pallavi. This is a very difficult question because if I say I'm not a feminist, there'll be 10 people in the crowd who will call me, I'm being conservative or I don't know what. And if I say I'm a feminist, there'll be other 10 people in the audience who will say I'm a liberal, I'm a this, I'm a that. So it's very difficult to deal with labels, first and foremost. I think the concept of feminism or requirement of feminists has happened because women at some point suddenly were not allowed to do a lot of things, which we actually had a prevalent culture of allowing them to have their own freedoms. And for whatever different reasons, in terms of safety for women or in terms of having a family life and containing things, the societal requirements sort of made it necessary for women to be at home. There is a lot of literature out there, if we start digging, that right up to 1700s, girls and boys were educated. In fact, we had, before the colonial system of education came into India or started in India, we had a very good education system in which girls and boys, especially girls up to the age of 12 to 14, were educated. So it's not that they were kept away from being literate in this. What they could do later on is a different point of this. So when I look at that aspect of my culture, and then try and relate it to for today, I think, yes, women should be allowed to do what they want to, but as a woman or as somebody who actually came from a very ritualistic based family in some sense, and what many people would perceive as a conservative family, I am the first engineer lady in my family on both sides of my maternal and my paternal side. I am the first person, not even just a lady, male amongst the males and the females, others, who went and got an education outside India, a person who has the highest education. So I was able to do that only because I was able to have a conversation with my family and convince them of what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it. So feminism isn't about going and burning your bras or standing outside somebody's door with placards fighting for it. You can have a nice dialogue with your parents, with your community or whatever it is, to pursue what you want to do, which is the right thing. Just sort of to share, since you talked about education and going to the last mile, through Indic Academy last year, we did a crowdfunding for a school in a very small village in Tirunelveli district in Tamil Nadu. This district was unable to get government aid because of some policy and these issues and the right to education, because it's an unaided, lots of issues. So basically they had not paid the salaries to their teachers for 8 months. The school had a very crumbling infrastructure. The cows from the neighboring fields would come into and take shelter in the passageway of the school. So in the morning, the kids would be having a whole others of cow dung and cow urine to deal with. And so the school was facing a lot of issues. It was also possibility that they would see a drop in the girls attending schools because of the fact that the older girls after class 8th and above, they were trying to avoid school because they didn't have proper sanitary facilities. Specifically, they didn't have any disposal facilities for sanitary napkins or access to them also. So through crowdfunding, we helped the school get enough funds to pay off the salaries of the teachers and help them build a wall, and also get an incinerator kind of a device for the school so that the disposal is there, because the girls would feel shy that others will know that my periods are going on and these kinds of issues. Limited point is we should try and engage last mile or the first mile, whatever it is, as concerned citizen constantly. I have not I have not wanted to, I didn't go and do this, helping the school, because I would be on this panel today. So that your destination, on the walk to the destination, should be about being in constant touch with your community to do some or the other work in whatever form. And that probably calls us being a true feminist.
Thank you, Pallavi ji, and thank you, Makran sir, for curating this wonderful panel. Unfortunately, in India, the entire feminist discourse is ensconced within two straitjackets. One is we talk about feminism when there is a case of crime against women, and the other is to paint the entire patriarchal tradition in a bad light and talk about feminism. So whether we want it or not, the entire feminist discourse in the country is centered around men. We come from a tradition which has the Ritukala Samskara in the South India, same tradition being followed in a slightly different format, Tiloni Bia in Assam, or the Thabal Chongba in Manipur. These are all celebratory forms of a woman's feminine side. When she menstruates, these are celebrations, long-scale celebrations which go on. We have in Assam a temple called the Kamakhya temple where the yoni is worshipped. We have a Shiva Linga which is not just a linga, but it is coitus. So when we completely alienate our Hindu discourse and try to bring a Christian parallel of this movement, which is intrinsically based on a notion that a woman was carved out of the Adam's rib, how is it that you talk about feminism? I don't agree with this term at all. Even if we were to look at the political antecedents of the movement, feminism in the West arose because women needed voting rights. In India, that was never a problem. We had warriors and rulers and really strong Shaktis taking forward the mantle, whether you look at the Hindu women who sort of ruled over dynasties, or you look at the Muslim women who did so. So the Indic version of the women question is very different from the Western version of what is being termed as feminism. Now, to pontificate on the causes that feminism endorses, obviously nobody sitting over here or even in the panel would disagree that there are a lot of issues with respect to gender discrimination. But I think somewhere down the line, Pallaviji, we'll have to delineate between what feminism is, what it has come to mean, and what we need, and the new definition that we need to give it.
Can you hear me? Okay, it took me quite some time to really understand, I would not use the word feminism, but what does it mean to be a feminine, the femininity. I would like to explore that, and it's taken me some time since the time, almost 7 years since the time I quit my corporate job, which was the turning point to explore some of these questions and, really ask who am I, really deep down. And because before that, it was always something that, that I was conditioned to believe that you are equal to men. You are, you can do anything and everything a man can do, which means, that you must rather, not can, you must earn X amount of money, you must make it to that Forbes top 50 list. And just a caveat, this is just my own personal experience of how I viewed my own life as a woman till now, that you had to be that Forbes top 50 person. And the things that were considered very woman or housewife-ish, whether it's taking care of your home or children, were really not emphasized that they're also important, or that they even are a part of your own swabhava, or your own your own flow, I would say, your natural flow. And so these things were always the typical womanly things were always looked down upon or demeaned. And I come from an upper middle class family, very liberal. So it was a kind of city-bred person. So that was the case where, I came up to. And, I worked in the corporate life. I even started my own startup, in which I failed because I always went into that of earning a certain amount of money, that fame, fortune. I wanted to capture that bubble which was there, the startup fame bubble, that, that she's a woman in this male-dominated bastion, that she can also make it. And that was my aspiration. I thought, that is me. But I never actually went deeper and thought, who am I? There's this outer image which I had internalized, that was me. But I never went beyond that image to see who am I beneath all these conditioning, the samskaras, and all these ideas that have been fed into me through social media, external, your family, friends, etc. And that's when I realized that feminine, having that feminine quality, or that energies, all about nurturing and nourishing and having that compassion. And that is, to me, is having that feminine energy, which unfortunately, a lot of us today in our various fields have lost it because we're trying to be the alpha male. You know, we want to be on the board of certain thing and be as aggressive and as, you know, dominating or, you know, play that politics which generally we see a man playing. You know, that's how we've seen that, and we want to do that. Whether or not he or she is actually aggressive or not, he or she can actually cutthroat. But we're just seeing alpha males, we're not seeing the true feminine energy. And the reason why people talk about in various organizations that they want a balance of feminine and male, that they just, substituting men for alpha males. So where is the feminine quality, that balance gone? And that's why there's a lopsided thing in our organizations, our society, because we've lost the meaning of true feminine energy, that nurturing, nourishing power of being a woman and having compassion to do anything. That, to me, is real, you know, the feminine energy. And, you know, going out there, dharna, and, you know, taking out aggression on men and branding every male as patriarchal, you know, it's actually be going against your swabhava, because you're not stepping back and seeing that a lot of these men are victims of patriarchy. It's not that, you know, they are sitting as kings and having it all easy. So to me, to step back and seeing things in perspective and compassion, that to me is being a real woman today. Thank you.
Well, Pallaviji, thank you so much for the question. And it's always good to go at the last because you hear such amazing viewpoint from such erudite women. There is a beautiful shloka in Yajurveda which says, Strihi Brahma Bahuvit. Stri, you are the ultimate creator. And therefore, when the subject of feminism comes to the foray, to me it's about embracing the woman I am. A man, unfortunately, doesn't get to experience the power of giving birth. He's just a participant. So I think indeed women need to be more empathetic towards the men. And you can't deny, I am sitting on this panel and I want to say something. I do not deny the need for a man in my life. I run 4 companies and I employ about 175 people, and 80% of them are men. I don't hire people because they belong to a certain gender. I hire people because they have the skill to make my business successful. I'm a mother, and I'm very proud of it. I'm a daughter, and I'm a son to my parents because they don't have another child. But if I had a brother, I would embrace that too. Alienation doesn't bring inclusion. That's why we seek for empowerment. Empowerment is not a product. It's a process. It's a process that you culminate in yourself as you evolve in the journey of your life. Both my parents are doctors. I'm a PhD, but my dad till date introduces me as a fake doctor. It's natural for any parents to believe that their kid is going to take their legacy forward because they worked very hard. But I ran away from home. I ran away from home because I believed that that was the time to alienate myself from that ideology of following a legacy and do something that I believed in. I do not encourage anyone here to run away from home. Please. I did it because I had no choice. But that taught me to be independent because we often have a very cushioned life and we talk about the aspects of equality. Yesterday I was listening to a wonderful actress portraying what she believed in the sentiment of equality. But the truth is, most people who talk about equality had actually never had to face any bias. They talk about it because it's cool. I had to make chocolates and sell at my college because I didn't have money to survive. I used to stitch clothes and sell at my college because I could not survive. And my friends had the luxury of having a boyfriend and I didn't. But that made me an entrepreneur. And I'm sure men, sadly, they don't have a panel to talk about the machoism. They need it too. Because if you look at statistics, molestation is largest in young boys and not girls. We are factually incorrect in our assumptions, and then we presume that we need a so-called empowerment to make ourselves validated. So to me, womanhood doesn't need validation. A woman is a womb plus a man. And that's where it ends, and you can't do without the man. So I think inclusion is the ultimate empowerment, not exclusion.
हेलो हेलो हम बीच में नहीं बोलेगा आप ऑन ही रखो Somdutta, there was this sentence that you spoke in between your opening thoughts. You said that we need to show some empathy to men, and I think that statement in itself has the power to invert the pyramid completely. And I think we should have that as one of our topics for the next Pondilit Fest. So we're talking about empowerment versus identity. Now, a lot of we are made to believe in today's world that a woman who decides to work, a woman who earns money, is an empowered woman. A woman who has identity is an empowered woman. But my mind goes to all the maids who come to our house. They go to 4 or 5 different houses. All they are doing is they're cleaning the pots and pans, they're cleaning the bathrooms, they're sweeping the floors, they're mopping the floors. And this is not a job that you look forward to doing day after day. And especially when you have to go and clean 5 different houses in a day's time and do the same job at your own house and then cook and then look after your family and your husband. It is really very difficult. Now that woman has to come and do that job at 4 different houses because the husband's income is not enough. So she's contributing to the family. But in many cases, you also see the same woman getting abused at home. Sure. So are we really, and I'm not talking about all the women sitting here because we all come from educated families where I don't think there is any bias against men. We don't hold men higher than women. We are all equals. But I'm talking about, and the entire feminism movement is also, their focus is only towards this section of society who are lesser, privileged. So my question is, and I want to start with you, Somdutta. My question is that does standing on your own 2 feet and earning your bread and butter make you an empowered woman?
Absolutely not. I think money is a means to the end, but not the end. Doesn't matter who earns. There are cases that you see today where the male counterpart, and that's what I'm going to talk about, because one is not the breadwinner, the other is not the feeder. Both play an equal part. If we look at saying that men went to earn, therefore they're empowered, what else could they have done better? And then you say, the world's best chefs are men, right? So, which means they have the ability to perform. The question you asked is very pointed, and I'm going to answer it this way. Money doesn't bring empowerment. A sense of security does. When a woman decides to stay in a relationship, and it's not just urban and rural, despite being abused, physically or emotionally, it comes from a deep-rooted sense of insecurity to let go. Survival instinct, and scientifically, men have 1 chromosome and women have 2, which makes us a lot more stronger physically to do much more. That's why I said the empathy towards men, they can't. They are not competent enough to do that, is why they only perform isolated actions. We can, because that's how we are physically built. However, it's been made to believe that you need the muscle which only a man has to give you a sense of security for survival. I have friends, Pallavi, who are in abusive marriages, not able to let go, and saying, who'll look after the kids? Bachcho ka kya hoga? Everybody survives. What happens when parents die? Don't kids survive? I'm a widow. I lost my husband at the age of 24. I have a daughter who's 9. I survived. I survived because I wanted to survive. I didn't look for security in a man. I can seek companionship even in a woman if I want. It is not gender specific. So it is the insecurity of having somebody to provide you a physical sense of security and ownership that doesn't allow us to let go. That's the challenge. It's not the money.
Also, there's a lot of talk that we hear when hear about feminism that if a woman has to stay at home, she has to draw a salary to look after the house, to look after the kids, because that is a job in itself. My question is, who does she draw the salary from? And if it's the man, then he becomes the employer. Doesn't that still put him above her in some way? You want to answer that, Shubhrastha?
Pallavi, I think there are two dimensions to the question. One is a moral philosophical dimension and the other is a political policy dimension. On the political policy side of things, I have openly advocated that women's work should be accounted for in the GDP of this country, for the simple reason that once we do so, this whole sense of women being housewives and not market wives, if it were that category, basically there's dignity of labor, whatever kind, emotional, physical, financial, whatever, which should be respected, and therefore I advocate that. However, on the moral philosophical plank, this is a very valid point, that a man becoming an employer and putting a woman in an employee's position calls for more discrimination later if one were to go by the traditional feminist paradigms of every man is a potential abuser and has looked at women only as an oven where a bread can be baked. So it is a problem. How I think the way in which I look at this entire question is to bring in the policy first and parallelly run real aggressive campaigns to make people aware and educate them about this whole aspect of every labor being an act of love and care irrespective of the gender. So a man who is going to office to earn for the family is not doing so because it's his job, because men want to take care of the women they like. As Somdutta was very right in pointing out, there are specific gender roles where there are no patriarchal or matriarchal dimensions. It's just there. And all of us who've been in relationships know it for a fact that there are certain things which men do and certain things which women don't, because they can't. We're not engineered that way. So yeah, I think I'll prefer going to split the two narratives and later go on to stitch both of them together. I think we have been mutilated, dismembered to look at the gender discourse in certain very insidious ways, and there needs to be a comprehensive closure to that.
Is it on? Okay. We are always used to being put a label on. Women are always labeled as a housewife or or whatever. So when it comes to empowered women, what we see in films, because I belong to the world of films, how do you show an empowered woman? How do you show a liberated woman? She has to have a cigarette in her hand and a drink in her hand. And she has to speak English, and she has to be, in company of men going, ha, 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 and, all that. I mean, that's the general... that is the general, image that has been created about this woman who, is working in a man's world and is taking the man by his horns, so typically to say. How do all of you, I would pointedly like to ask you, Gayatri, how do you, as a woman who's, has done so many things in life, you've been wearing different hats at different times, how do you take to this labeling? You're an empowered woman, but I've never seen you smoking. And I've never seen you behaving the way these women in the films do.
So, see, again, for me, an empowered woman is she in touch with her own swabhava? Is she in touch with her own natural flow? And again, these labels of being a smoker, joining in the boys' club after, Friday evenings, going for a drink, or, as I say, in the boardroom, being the alpha male there. And all that is, again, you have to ask yourself the question, is that you? Is that really me? And I can give you my own example. As I said, I had a startup which didn't do well. And post that, it was almost like a crisis for me, an identity crisis. Who am I? Why am I here? How am I here? What am I going to do? And that's when I took the path of yoga. And as a yoga teacher, I've been practicing yoga for the past 2 years, not just for the physical practice, but as an antaranga, inner work sadhana. And that's when I got in touch with all these questions of what is my natural flow, and how many of such labels am I actually holding and really burdening myself with. And that's why I'm suppressing my own natural flow, and that's actually hurting me. It is, it is making me feel very claustrophobic, and then I'm not me. I'm very unhappy. I'm angry all the time, and I want to react all the time. And for me, like personally, I was in Austin for a month, and in the US where you have to do everything yourself, I realized that I love doing a lot of housework, whether it's cooking, cleaning, going to the groceries, practicing my yoga, learning, reading, which it was not making me a single dime. But I didn't mind. I was in love with it because it came so naturally to me. Nobody taught me. My mom never even let me enter the kitchen ever. She never told me to go and clean. They always thought, no, you should always study. You should go work to get that money, or make that profit and be that successful woman that they say. Nobody sees success that as a successful woman you need to love what you're doing. Are you in touch with your natural flow? And that's when I'm in harmony with myself. Otherwise I'm always battling these labels. Do I need to be a smoker? But I don't like smoking, but I have to go and smoke. I have to show that. I need to show that I have a cigarette butt in my hand. I'm wearing these clothes, maybe jeans or whatever, being that, or burning the bras to show that I am that woman. And at the end of the day, when you see yourself in the mirror, you know how pained you are. And that's to me is travesty. And I think a lot of our women are going through this question. And we should start these real discussions and dialogue at a very young age, so that they really keep getting in touch with themselves, and they'll be, and we'll be right now it's a label, like you talked of cigarettes and drinking. There'll be some more labels later, so we have to keep pulling all of us back and seeing what are we doing. So keep asking that question.
Can I add just one line to it? My friends smoke, they drink, they party. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't think so. I don't, but I hang out with them.
There's nothing wrong with it, but they're just bad habits.
See, it's like this. A lot of habits are bad, Pallavi. Sometimes, my dad says this. I am building one company after the other, and he makes fun. So, you want to be a Tata one day? I said, of course I want to be. Bad habit. You need to be contented. Being content is also a habit. So being not contented and keeps thriving for something is also a bad habit. Why do we put on a glass and we look at habits based on what we believe is good and bad? That is when I isolate a friend who is extremely good human being, a very capable woman, just because she drinks, smokes, and wears clothes which according to me are not conducive. If you really ask about empowerment, women need to respect another woman, no matter what she does, giving her the opportunity, thinking that she's capable. That is true empowerment. The day we stop looking at, doesn't a man get labeled? Of course he does. If I'm somebody's girlfriend, he's somebody's boyfriend. If I'm his wife, he's my husband. Labels are there with them as well. We have been so conditioned, and that's where parenting comes in. As young parents, we should nurture our kids in a way that they look at another individual as an individual, knowing they have had different upbringing, different circumstances, different likes and dislikes, and do not label them as good and bad. So me, labeling is just good and bad, not what hats you wear.
You're right, but also while under these labels, what we really are, as women, we are naturally predisposed to taking care, to loving,
Yeah, that's why we are blessed.
cooking, taking care of our loved ones, cleaning the house. And I think a lot of women carry these small fetishes about, keeping the broom in a certain way, or keeping their comb in a certain way, or having the towels all being folded alike.
OCD.
So yeah, we all have. I won't go to the extent of calling it an OCD, but yes, these are small fetishes, of course. So how do these labels come in our way of actually doing what we really want to do, just to prove ourselves in the society? Both of you answered. Whoever wants to take the question.
I have OCD, by the way, and that's why I talked about it. I can close my eyes and tell you exactly where I keep, okay? Indeed, I have a separate place for myself, purely because I don't like the way my mom keeps the house, okay? And she's like, you can do what you want, I get to do what I want. I don't think so. I think it's the conditioning of the mind. Sometimes we allow certain things to define our way of thinking. When my friends come home, they say, oh my God, Shom, wasn't the glass like this the last time we came home? I'm like, yeah, because that's how it's supposed to be. Then how do you find time? You are all over the place. And I tell people, I live in a suitcase, right? I'm traveling all the time. But when I find time, that's also an extension of my identity. How I want my house to be, how I want my clothes to be is an extension of my identity. And I'm sure men have that too. Sometimes because, like you said, caring and nurturing comes it's a genetic thing. It's not something that our parents hand over to us. We are genetically built that way. They are not genetically built that way. So they need the nurturing of a woman in their life to allow them to see what they actually can't see. Sometimes you say the guys are very attached to their mothers. You have to understand they need a mother. And the transition happens from the mother to the wife because they're still looking for the mother, and there's nothing wrong in it. They have an inherent need to be taken care of. Question is, can you give it to them without questioning who you are as an identity? Does it make you any lesser if you give more? No, that is embracing of your womanhood. You are capable of giving. So what's wrong if you do it? But if you give and then question, why am I doing so? Because somebody is labeling me as his wife, then decide to be single and happy, if that's what gives you happiness.
So interestingly, in one of our yoga facilitation centers, where I also facilitate certain inner work workshops, there was a man who had taken a sabbatical, and his wife was working, and he was at home, house husband. And he was an entrepreneur. He took a step back, but he actually loved doing all the housework, taking care of the children, dropping, cooking and everything. And yet he was in pain because he said, this is not supposed to be me. And let's not forget, the feminine energy is not only restricted to the women, it's also the men. The nurturing and nourishing is also, should be, not should be, but ideally should be identified with a man also. That energy needs to be, because all of us, whether men or women, have that energy, and even women do not really relate to the real feminine energy, unfortunately, today. So even the men also have that aspect, and it's even for them to own up is also very difficult. And also, we were just, my second point is, Pallavi ji, we were talking just after lunch, where you mentioned a very interesting statement that, women are supposed to be multitaskers, and you were very clear, look, I'm not. Unlike Vivek ji, that he's a multitasker, but
we have decided to reverse our roles.
Yeah. So, and you were because you understood, look, I'm not a multitasker whom I can cook, clean, go for shoots, do other things, travel, crazy and all that stuff. And you're very, I could see you in peace with that. You never regretted that, why am I not a multitasker? I'm supposed to be, because that's the label a woman gets. No, a strong woman, today's woman is a multitasker. So I just saw you as very calm and said, yeah, I'm not, that's okay, that's me. I was very happy taking care of my children and taking care of my home and, doing what I wanted to do, get my own free time and flexibility. So what's wrong with that? So I think you were very comfortable with that part, and you quite evolved to understand that part. So I just wanted to bring that example also.
Thank you for saying that, because a lot of, I've been accused of being a very true Hindu wife, only because I, decided to quit my work for some time and look after the kids. But now I want to come to a very bold question. And some women might hate me for this, and I want to apologize in the beginning. But my question is, that we've heard a lot of examples of Draupadi being thrown around when in the feminist movement. But in today's age of Tinder, how do you look at Draupadi? Should we start with you, Yogini?
Now I'm trying to recollect, I think yesterday too much of alcohol evening, but I remember one particular incident where this thing of Draupadi did come up. So somebody said, this was that Draupadi was forced to have 5 husbands because the mother-in-law said, share her. And that is the narrative that has been pushed down on our throat. Also because we are not bothered to read the real story. Now the real story, if you look at the real story, there are many places in the Mahabharata where Draupadi has stood up and spoken very, very rudely for that point of time, that era, what you would perceive as being rude, to everyone from Bhishma Pitamaha to Arjuna to even Krishna. So, one mother-in-law she couldn't face, or was the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law relationship such from that time, is one thing. So I look at it. Exactly. I look at it in being the modern empowered woman that I am. I say, well, she liked to have 5 husbands and she had a fun time. I mean, so okay, and it's okay. She identified herself. She identified what she wanted, and probably, there is this that each, and obviously in Mahabharata, the 5 Pandavas represent 5 different natures of men. So she was able to identify with each of them. So, that is how. Now the question is, would that be okay in today's world? Is a very important question. So yes, we in our mythology or our historical Puranas have accepted that kind of life in a very open mindset. But the question is, in context of today's world and how our families are structured and everything, would that be a good thing? And the answer is very difficult. If you're a single person, if you're in your then okay, fine, you're having a polyamorous relationship or multiple partners, that's okay. But when you have children, when you have responsibilities, because children are going to follow your paths to a certain extent till they are able to evolve there in their own minds, they are going to, and they are going to get evolved in the way their parents are subjecting them to them. It matters. And incidentally, we are sitting in Aurobindo Ashram, and this is my first trip to Pondicherry, but I've met some very interesting people, including the young gentleman sitting over here, who told me he was born here. And the fact that he was born in this extremely beautiful place, which is full of Shakti and this, he has a very good clarity in his mind, which probably if I take a young man of his age from Mumbai may not be having, because of the colossal mess the lifestyle is in Mumbai compared to what the lifestyle is in Pondicherry, and the value system and the ethics that Pondicherry, this small town, is able to have given to him. So in today's context, Tinder kind of lifestyle doesn't help, especially if you have children. So Draupadi and her kids and all of that is a different this.
Can I say something to that? So I have a little contrasting view. I'm so glad Tinder happened. And I'll tell you why. Yes, I'm so glad Tinder happened. I don't know how many of you know why Tinder was even made. One of the co-founders was rejected on 17 blind dates because of the way he looked. He said men often find it so hard to get the attention of the woman. And they do not get it purely because they're looking either for their financial success, they're looking at the way they look, the way they dress. This guy was a geek. He was a Stanford guy, geek, he didn't know how to dress at all. And so he went on 17 blind dates, his friends set him up, and he was rejected in all of them. The statistics show, because of Tinder, all those men and women who never had an opportunity at love have actually found love. Because they discovered themselves, they are calling it, Vivekji, love, honestly, everybody's definition of love is different. Swamiji said detachment is love, we say attachment is love, love has different connotation, right? So yes, so they have found companionship through Tinder. As per the Tinder statistics, 42% of people who met on Tinder are actually married. And so, if the world is supposed to be digitally connected, then the real connection comes from allowing people to discover each other, no matter which part of the world they are in, for companionship. If two lonely souls, men or women, and Tinder is not just for girls and guys. I know a lot of my gay friends who have found companionship on Tinder. So men or women, women or women, whoever you find companionship, and even transgenders, thank God for apps like Tinder, Truly Madly, and so on. And I have funded one of them. So, and trust me, that particular funding of mine has been the most profitable so far. So, the truth of technology and the truth of empowerment is truly about helping people meet and get connected. Why not?
You want to add something? Yes.
Pallavi ji, I will answer this question as a postmodern woman who has thoroughly enjoyed reading the Mahabharata and the Ramayana in different states of ecstasy at realizing what our tradition stands for, or what our mythical past, quasi-historical past stands for. To answer your question as somebody with this identity of a woman who has enjoyed reading, young girl actually, enjoyed reading the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and growing up to really experiencing it, I feel that Draupadi, the word Pada in her name, has walked down her own identification with her inner self, with 5 different charitras, the 5 Pandavas, to realize her Sheela. That for me is the interpretation for Draupadi and her life. But how can I not rant as a postmodern woman who has been schooled to believe of this, Mahabharata being this really regressive text, which talks about Draupadi and, poor Draupadi, she had to share 5 husbands and all of that. As a patriarchal woman in a patriarchal world full of patriarchal men stung by patriarchy, where Kunti, her mother-in-law, had to sleep with sun god, had to, no choice. She had to recite the shlokas because some divine ordination, some divine design. So she had to invoke him to come to her and then have sex with him. And so on it went with, how Pandu was sexually incompetent, and therefore she had to sleep with another 4 gods to produce the 5 Pandavas. Therefore she had Karna and the 5 Pandavas, and she had to conceal all of that in a very well-wrapped...
Karna and the 2 others.
Yes.
Three others. Madri was the mother of Nakul and Sanjay.
Yes, sorry. Thanks for correcting me. But the point that I'm trying to make is poor Kunti, being stung by these men and the patriarchal world. She had to even sugarcoat that entire story, let Karna go and all of that. A, she decides to take revenge and subject another woman to the same torture like mother-in-laws do. Or B, pass on this very empowered baton to let daughter-in-law, mother-in-law have a conversation, mother-in-law with a glass of wine or scotch, depending on what they like, says, well, Draupadi, listen, one man is not enough. And I'm giving you the liberty to explore your sexuality with 5 other men and your femininity with 5 other men. This can be a very classic modern interpretation of the Mahabharata. And meanwhile, we must also remember that Draupadi had soft feelings for Karna as well. This is part of recorded history in the Mahabharata. So it depends on how you look at it. I do not agree with the postmodern rant I gave, but I have been schooled to interpret Mahabharata in this particular way as well. And as a true Hindu woman who is liberal and not illiberal like the left, who wants to stifle voices at every different fora, and we all know what happened 2 days ago, I would give respect to this tradition of looking down on the texts and deriding everything that a woman stands for or makes or has a participative choice in concert within your narrow-minded myopic lens. I think I would like to end my rant there.
Okay, so I'll just add, for me, Draupadi, very interestingly, I explored Draupadi in one of our Mahabharata exploration programs where we explore the characters of Mahabharata from a personal archetypal energy point of view. And I see Draupadi as in two ways. One, she's an aspiration. After the Vastraharana, she stood there and asked each of them, all the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra, their heads were down, their heads were bowed down. She asks them, where is your dharma? You let down your aspiration was mean. So, which is, and coming back to all of us, that what is, as a woman, as a man, what is your aspiration in your daily life? You let down your aspirations, and aspiration is just more than desire. So that bigger dream, that higher cause, you let down that. For me, Draupadi stood there and questioned, and she questions at least me every day. Am I doing what I'm doing to honor that higher cause? Are my actions in line to achieve that higher cause? So for me, Draupadi is that higher aspiration. Secondly, Draupadi is also the Mother Earth whom we are tormenting with her unsustainable ways. The way she's tolerating and absorbing so much, and she's so strong. Draupadi was a very strong woman. She was the anchor for each of the Pandavas. She was also the finance person. I mean, she was actually very good at money keeping. She was also a passionate lover to Bhima. She was also Yudhishthira's anchor. So in every way, she was a very strong woman who was actually tossed around in so many ways. Yet she stood for what she believed in. She was there. She was the strongest of them. Without her, the Pandavas would be nowhere. So to me, Mother Earth embodies Draupadi because she's taking so much of our shit that we, almost sorry to use that word, but that's how I feel very strongly, that, we are letting down and through our own ways of living, of our thoughts and attitude. So to me, she's the mother who's so strong in just taking everything, and it's something worth thinking about, how we are seeing ourselves and our world and the planet. So I just wanted to bring that point out because I think it's very important to bring out, it's the way we are living, it's very unsustainable and it's very scary for our future generations. Do we really bring in even children to these unsustainable ways? To me, that is the alarming point. So she rings alarm bells for all of us, whether it's letting down aspirations or whether you're letting down Mother Earth. Thank you.
Pallavi ji, may I add one small bit? It's very interesting that Gayatri ji reminded me of the special love that Draupadi had for Karna, and it's again a part of recorded history in the Mahabharata. Also, various poetic renditions. Mahabharata as a layered text has been interpreted, reinterpreted poetically. It's a beach kavya basically. So a lot of other poetry has come to fore around it. The point is that the lascivious feminist rant that I just gave on Draupadi is lot to do with, and I'm trying to connect the question that you asked about smoking and drinking also with the whole rendition of the Mahabharata. I will decide for myself whether I want to have sex with 6 different men or desire for one man, choose to marry 5 other men, still have a softer corner for one among the 5, when I want to, where I want to, in what way I want to. I may choose to be a very charitravan woman by not smoking or drinking or gambling as the Pandavas do, but gamble in my own right. Be a alpha male, as Gayatri ji was saying. It's my choice. What Draupadi did is none of my business. Should not be. And I agree with Somdutta ji when she says that. Whatever a woman does, why is it that the scrutiny should always be on how a woman should be? The moment these discussions go around should, must, need to, we are giving this agency somewhere outside, fixing it somewhere outside, even if it is in the hands of the other women or other men, it doesn't matter. I think the real power of a womanhood is, as I think all of us agree on, is her feminine source of energy. And there's nothing wrong to be natural. If you feel desirous for men or women or transgenders or no one, that's none of society's business.
You know, I just want to say one line and conclude, Pallaviji. I think Shubhrastha said it very beautifully, that it's not just about the Draupadi. I think our Indic texts, if you ask me, were the most liberal, were the most inclusive, is why we actually go to a temple and pray to Radha and Krishna and not call it an incest. For us, loving did not mean monogamy. It did not mean that it has to be within a string of so-called societal attachments. We were open to accepting different ways of relationships, and that's why it's unfortunate that we have come this far with such great lineage and we still talk about labeling and being submissive and feminism when we were also empowered at that time.
Pallaviji, may I take one small liberty again?
But a very small.
Yeah, I will.
Because we have to open for question and
it ends in the next 10 seconds. I think a lot of Indian women today, because we have grown up in a certain way in different pockets, rural, urban, etc., in a world which loves to ascribe labels to women, left, right, and center. If a woman enjoys a smoke or a glass of wine and is not comfortable putting out on social media or wherever, does not want to embrace that part of her in public, does she become a less feminist than a woman who is doing so just so that she gets validation on all these centers? Are also questions which we need to ponder on.
No, so we have to open now, we have to get some questions from the audience. But before that, I would just like to conclude the entire talk about Draupadi. Is that every time feminists speak about Draupadi having or being compelled to sleep with the 5 brothers, nobody spares a thought for the rest of the 4 brothers and what they went through when they were asked to sleep with their brother's wife. So on that thought, I would like to open this for questions, and I think we would like to take a question from the gentleman first.
Finally, some participants.
They already said what they have to say.
There the man goes again.
It's like he's the man.
Hello?
He's fine.
Can you give us your name first, and just if you can just keep your questions short and to the point, and who do you want to ask it to?
I'm Akil Ahmed Khan, research scholar in the Pondicherry University. My question is with Shubhrastha, madam. In the opening remarks, she said that she finds problematic with the narratives and discourses with the women born from Adam's ribs. Being a proud and empowered woman, do you also find the problematic things when Shudras are said that they are born from the fields? Do you believe that narrative also?
Yes, I do have a problem with that narrative as well, and I don't have a problem with it as well. If you were to interpret this shloka of Shudras being born of the feet and taking feet as some sort of a lesser organ in the human body, it is problematic. But for me, my eyes are as important as my skin or my feet, so I don't find a problem with it that way. No. So there's a difference in what this shloka means and what I was trying to say. I am not casting any aspersions on the Christian tradition. Let me be very clear about it. I respect the belief of millions of Christians across the globe. What I'm just saying is that the story of Genesis has a mention of Eve being carved out of the body of Adam. For me, an interpretation is that Adam came first. He was not the center of, he was the center of creation, therefore did not give any agency to Eve or women in her birth or in the whole process of giving birth. That's my limited interpretation, and I know it can be challenged by other Christian scholars, and I'll completely respect that point of view. I was just trying to differentiate between yoni being the center of creation in the Indic tradition and a woman being carved out of the rib of Adam as a second being, so as to say. Just that. And let me also tell you, it has nothing to do with the biblical interpretation. I'm only commenting on John Milton's version of Genesis.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Tanya. I'm from Christ University, Bangalore. I have a few points which I want to lead into a question, hopefully really fast. I think it's problematic when we talk about feminism and the idea of feminism, because we're constantly creating a binary where we have characteristics which is femininity and masculinity, when we need to understand that both women and men possess both, and how we're assigning femininity with women only, and we're being very empowered about that, but not empowered about the masculinity, being masculine as well. So the whole idea of yin and yang. And also my question would be, if you could address that, and my question would be, patriarchy affects men as well, and we need to address that because they are also being put under a structure which they need to perform. They are performing roles as well as we are. So because if we could change the whole idea of this binary and this structure, maybe then that's what.
Is this question pointed to any particular panelist?
Okay. So, no, I'm just taking it because yesterday Pallavi and I had an interesting discussion on this very similar point. I think what you're saying is correct, that actually we expect a lot from the man. We expect him to, when a girl is born, as we talked about, she has all her choices. So she has the choice of staying at home, cooking, having kids, bringing up the child, and just concentrating on doing that if she wants to do that, all that. And she has the choice of putting all the financial burdens of getting the money home to burn the fire on the man. Now, the man can't run away from that. He actually, unfortunately, in any society, Western, Eastern, Indic, the man has to do what he is being born to do. So when we say that women can multitask, men can't, it's also because the expectations from men are very, very specific, that they just have to do that. They cannot, most of the times, even though we are seeing an increased percentage of men opting to stay at home and women working and all of that, I don't know, in terms of, at least in my own friend circle, I have also seen that those relationships over a few years wither away. Where the man has chosen to stay at home, there are a lot of other complications that happen, and that relationships do wither away. So the man, his chromosome, his DNA, it needs to go multiple mutations and under this to be able to handle two different identities. And so it's actually very difficult for the men to be a man in the way we are defining be a man kind of a thing. So probably the narrative or our perceptions have to be that, neither is the man stronger nor is the woman stronger. This is not a competition. We have to remove that perception of, is this a competition, or somebody has to be a man and somebody has to be a woman constantly or something like that. And unless we stop doing that with this in our everyday life, this constant tussle will continue to remain, of labeling people, of deciding what is feminism, is it necessary in our society, and things like that.
I'll just not take more than 10 seconds to answer, add to what, Yogini said. You asked two pointed questions. The first was, is there a necessity of the binary? Well, the world functions on the binary of 0 and 1. If that was not the case, then there would be no procreation, no recreation, so that exists, one. Secondly, it's the acceptance of the binary. Just like patriarchy, there is matriarchy also that exists. Indeed, I come from the Northeast, just like Shubhrastha, and if you go further Northeast, it's a very matriarchal society, and there is acceptance where the guy comes to the woman's house to get married. So which means that even the man makes adjustments, and so the woman does. Question is, do we look at it as an adjustment or a compromise? The moment the mind thinks of it as a compromise, conflict comes. Conflict is an output of compromise, but if you look at it as an adjustment, that in some segments that is acceptable, in the other segment the other is acceptable, and we exist in the binary with coherence and compassion, feminism and masculinity, that doesn't need separate identity. Then it becomes the Shiva Linga, where both the coitus is necessary for creation. That's it. Thank you.
Can we have the mic here? I see a lot of men standing here in the room. Do you have any questions? You have a question?
30-second rule for asking the question, please.
Yeah, I have two very simple questions. First,
Can you just step a little this side? I think you're blocking the camera. Okay.
my question is to Yogini ma'am. Regarding the comment that you made regarding Draupadi and Tinder, ma'am, do you feel that we get husbands only to have children?
No, I don't.
Very good
And let me finish the thing. And the second part would be to Somdutta ma'am. When we say woman is womb plus man, is it not reducing her to only maternal roles and maternal qualities?
That's what you said. The reason I said a womb plus a man, which means you and I are blessed with the power to actually create something, not just say it. That's why I said men is the participant, but the final ownership of creation is in you. And why I said you're a man, which means you already are so empowered that besides the fact that you can give birth, you can do 10 other things flawlessly because you have that extra 2X chromosomes unlike them. That's why I said a woman is a womb plus a man. So the beauty of creation, and as a mother I'm telling you, it's something that is so celebrated. And that's what I'm saying, today I hope artificial intelligence one day, and by the way it has, created the concept of artificial, embryos, where a man can experience the power of giving birth. I hope that happens. Then this whole debate of equality will be put to rest. I hope technology allows them to experience what it is. And I'm telling you, that's why they need empathy. They don't know what it is to. So they need a little more love and affection. They are the ones who need empowerment, not us. Let's change that goalpost.
Yeah, there's a question to add to that.
Okay.
See, when you talk of Draupadi and when you put Tinder and Draupadi in that same sentence, what it essentially, and I sort of assume that you were talking about she being in a polyamorous relationship or having 5 husbands. So the point is, yes, a man needs a woman needs a man. That's very basic, fundamental. That cannot be denied. Now the question is, how far do you make what she said? How many adjustments are you ready to make to be, to have that relationship be a fulfilling relationship? And that is where, if you walk into in a relationship with these notions of feminism, of saying, oh, if I have to stay at home, then I'll just be a housewife, then, or the husband thinks that I can control her because I control the purse strings, that is where the conflict starts. So, and like I said, in today's world, it would be difficult to imagine having 5 husbands. You might, the whole lust part is a different thing. I don't want to get into that, because it's not my this. But the point is that it'll be difficult to have those strong 5 relationships for one woman if you are also going to have a family and all of the other things.
Okay, I have a question. I observed recently, I also have a daughter, and lots of girls, teenage girls come to my house, and also I was reading a research. Now, see, everything, whenever feminism comes, we are talking in very generalized manner. So I'm not talking this and that. The real issue is, why is it that most of the teenager girls today are addressing each other as dudes and bro. No, it's not a laughing matter. No, it's not a laughing matter because there are lots of researchers working on it. It's a serious issue which 10 years later you will realize. Whereas you tell a boy, why are you behaving like a sissy? Okay, he takes objection to it. Okay? And why is it that, is it because of this aggressive, overpowering feminism that girls think, young teenager minds, they think that to be empowered means like a boy. And that's why they take a lot of pride in calling each other bro and dude. That's my one question. And extension of that is, why there is so much of pressure on women to always look very beautiful, charming. If you look at it, the sale, the marketing, the sale of all, and whoever talks about feminism is another thing, but when it comes to the reality, it's different. If the largest selling products are all women fashion products, women makeup products, and the women enhancement, I know you have something to say about that, but I'm not offending you. I'm trying to help out. Why there is so much of pressure to charm men?
So,
these two different questions. Two people
I'll just say only one thing to you. Because it's like, as an entrepreneur, it's factual.
And don't tell me women like to impress each other. So
Fair and Lovely's highest buyers are not women. It's men. So Fair and Lovely published a report, and they said that you keep saying that we are trying to be biased and discriminate women on colors, but the biggest target segment for our fairness cream is men between 25 and 40 in cities which are tier 2. And that's where, and for Imami, that is the most profitable business of theirs. So that is one, right? The second part is, and I'm sure my erudite co-panelists are going to answer that too. But the second part is this: the international school culture. So not just social media or the idea of feminism or anything. Like I've heard, a few of my daughter's friends who come home, they go to international school, and it's like the boy also addresses the girl like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" So they have a habit, young minds, they have a habit to sometimes pick it up and call themselves, dude and bro. But like you said, there's another part to it where the researchers are saying it's pretty much the need to feel included in a circle, be cool. So you're addressing each other as bro and cool. But this is a very American, a very Western way of speaking, which typically you will see kids who are going to international schools demonstrating. And there was this MasterCard survey that was published in April that said that the lingo kids pick up while addressing each other, talking and communicating to each other is typically what they learn from their school. It's not necessarily just social media. School is the biggest influencer, the education system, the circle is the biggest influencer. The second is, of course, access to internet. Now, as parents, am I going to tell my daughter's friend, hey, don't address her as long as you look at her as a friend, I'm cool whatever you call her. You call her a babe, I'm fine with that. That's all right. So if it's okay to, be calling each other, hey, babes, what's up? It's okay to call each other a dude and bro because it's just a lingo. So that's what I feel that if, as parents, we sensitize our kids that lingos do not define them or define their attributes and their actions, it's reverse psychology. The moment you tell them don't do it, they're going to protest. So why allow that? Just accept it. And they themselves will overcome it after some time.
I'm not talking about lingo. I'm talking about much seriously the psyche of young girls. I'm not talking about lingo. Psyche of young girls, maybe you can answer. Why is it that they are dressing like this? Something is changing in the society. I want to understand. I'm not questioning that.
Maybe the whole idea that men bond better than women, and it being internalized in the popular culture, it might have something to do with it. And the other aspect is always that if at all you want to be cool, you have to be like a man. And even if there are bad habits that men have, like smoking or drinking, or and when I say men have, I'm using a societal parallel to talk about it, or sleeping around, or what are the other vices that men have? So just to be included in that cool category, to say bro, to use cuss words, etc., etc. I think it might have to do with that. Interestingly, the question on makeup is what really caught my fancy, because I have started applying makeup only recently after I got married. No. No. I'm just saying that that question interests me a lot because I also go through the same identity crisis sometimes when I pick up a lipstick or whatever. I never applied makeup ever in my college life apart from kajal. I wanted to look good. That's one. Do I want to attract men? Not anymore. But yes, I want to be admired for my beauty, for my physical beauty too. And what is wrong with it? So yeah, that's my answer to your question.
Vivek,
Can I ask you a counter question? You came from the ad industry. Okay.
Please.
Yes, you sit down.
I think there's a lot that women, I've always admired men. There's a lot that we can learn from men. Similarly, there's a lot that men can learn from women too. And I think they are learning these days. I'll tell you from a very personal experience. When I host, a dinner at home, or I'm throwing a party, I know I'm going out of my way to make my guests feel special, right? And I'm going to spend hours, working on a menu and cleaning the house and getting the best of the china out and blahs and dahs and keeping the dogs away and all those things. The least I expect from my guests is, after all the effort that I have taken, is that they come in looking good and respect the hostess. If somebody walks into my house at a dinner party wearing a pajama, I give it back to them. I really do. In fact, you remember we had this, I won't name the person, he's a very famous actor. We had a Diwali party at home and he came with his wife. His wife was properly dressed and looking very beautiful, and he came wearing pajamas and that old tattered t-shirt which is very comfortable, but we don't want to throw it away. Okay, one of those t-shirts. And I just looked at him and I said, what? And he said, "Arey baap re, yahan to sab dressed up hoke aaye hain. I thought aise hi chalte hain." I said, "It's Diwali, what were you thinking about, I said, "You can still go back, change and come. I don't mind, we'll wait for you." So I make no bones about it that, when you come to my place, please come dressed, please look good. Hence, I think makeup becomes a little part of it. When you want to look your best, when you don't want to go there looking like you've been all over the place, but just shape your eyebrows properly. If you've got good eyes, enhance them. If you've got good lips, use a good shade of lipstick. And generally make this world a little more beautiful. I think that's what makeup does. Men are not, men have started grooming themselves now. Have you seen the men of the latest, the eyebrows of men these days?
I agree. And I want to say something. Vivek, it's only in the human race that the woman actually gets to dress up. Everywhere else in the animal kingdom, men have stolen the show. The peacock has to dance to lure the woman. Kahin pe to hamari kuch chhod do. Like, seriously, like something leave it to us. And I think, you know what? I will always look at a woman more than a man, and that's a natural tendency. A woman actually doesn't dress up necessarily for the man. Yeah, she wants to compliment it by another woman. You have not paid attention, Pallavi ji. That's what you have not paid attention to. We compliment each other a lot more. I will tell Shubhrastha, you're looking beautiful. I will tell Pallavi ji, you're looking so stunning, and that's what happens. You guys need to pay a little more attention. एक ही रेस है जो इतना effort देता है, कभी-कभी छोड़.
Okay, I think we have time for a last question now. So, okay, can we take two questions together?
Yeah. The gentleman and 30 seconds.
Hi, so I have a very simple question I've opened up to either of y'all. Why do you think the framework of feminism is so different on the left and right? I want a detailed answer. I asked you that yesterday. I want a detailed answer.
Why is it different? Why is the framework of feminism on left and right so different?
Can we take one more question so that we can answer both together?
Thank you so much. So according to that discussion. Do you think that in India, till now we got the political empowerment within women? Or I think till now women are used as puppet from grassroots in panchayat level as well as in central defense ministry also. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that will be Shubhrastha's question. Left and right wing. I'll speak about it in context of India and not in the Western this. But in general, first of all, again, always the isms and these labels of left and right are very strange. I think because India and Indic culture has historically we've never had a left and right. And if you look at the recent history of India, which is the last 100 years also, in the 40s and 50s also, our society, independence struggle, all of that was happening. But as a society, even then there were political parties and there was difference of opinions and things like that. Overall, we lived together, were bound together. We had this empathy for each other and know that we are bound together. The rise of the left wing in the 60s and after that the left wing has risen always on creating fault lines. So the right wing, if you want to say, like I said, I don't want to call it the right wing, but whatever. It tugs my heart every time I say right wing. Yeah, the wing which is not the left. They were not working on fault lines. They not necessarily assumptions, but I was saying, okay, yes, men and women are equal and they have their own roles and they should be performing their own roles. Whereas left wing was looking constantly at fault lines. See, there are issues in the society which need to be resolved, but that you cannot make that issue as a political statement or as converted into a feminism. And that is where it is difference in the left and the right wing. That the right wing or the people who are rooted in the Indic culture or what you've seen in this panel, the discussion has been that feminism is not creating these large fault lines which just can't be able to find a meeting point anywhere. And the way, whatever this I have read on the left-wing feminism is always strife. अरे दिन रात कितना झगड़ा करोगे? We have to live together and then only we'll be able to create a peaceful society.
I will just, before I answer the political question, I'll just add one line to what, very rightly what Yogini ji said, that this whole politics of the left in India right now and the right, quote unquote right, in India right now is seeped in rancor and noise for the simple reason that the supposed right in India is reacting to a very vitriolic, protesting left always. Left by definition is anti-state, anti-status quo. So it will have a very noisy version of everything. You can't expect peace and ananda, which is what the Indic ecosystem is all about, which has nothing to do with right and left. Because if you just look at the economics of the Indic way, we are very capitalist and we believe in dana. Dan is as much a part of, the right economics, Indic economics, and therefore there's no left or right in this country. So let's just get away with that, those phraseology first. Second part about the political question that you asked. We definitely need more representation of women everywhere in the parliament, at the panchayat level, in the legislative assemblies. However, I do not agree with the whole concept of reservations, despite the fact that somehow in every panel that I sit in, or in any television debate that I go to, or anywhere that I speak or write, I'm supposed to be a spokesperson of either the BJP or this government. I'm not. I disagree with it on many counts. Reservation as a philosophy or as a policy is something which I don't agree with. And this is a thought just to put the, just to put a little bit burn in the leftist ecosystem. This is not my point of view alone. This is a point of view shared by the first Dalit woman in the parliament, Dakshini Velayudhan, who picked a bone with no other than Dr. Ambedkar on the issue of reservation. She was a woman, first Dalit, the only Dalit in the Constituent Assembly that time, who had the spine to stand up against all the men talking about reservations. So I belong to that school of thought. Yes, and in an ideal world tomorrow that we all are working for, I would want the finance ministry of this country to be handed over to the women, and the women and child development ministry to be completely done away with. I want women ministry and a child ministry, and the women ministry headed by a man.
So, you can take.
No, it's fine. I have just one curatorial request. Our event management company is run by people you already know, and the daughter of one of the directors has a question. Will you allow it even after closing time?
If it's, yeah, let's allow it, of course.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Aditi, and I don't have a, it's not addressed to any one of you, so any of you can answer. So my question is that when we speak about empowerment, the spectrum that we covered is quite large. So we saw that like the maids working in the household is as empowered as a woman running a company. So in that sense, is there a dilution in the meaning of what empowerment is, and as we as women, somewhere to blame for our perception of the world, or using it as an excuse to take the easy way out?
Well, I can start with it, and I'm sure everybody else will have a point to add to. In the very first opening statement, I said that empowerment is not a product. It's a process. And it comes through a series of evolution. It's going to continue from one generation to the other. Empowerment is a thought process, right? It comes with you believing that the job that you're doing it to the best of your ability. Then you're empowered. But if you're seeking somebody else to hand over a placard to you with an acknowledgement that the job that you're doing is exceptional, then you're disempowered. The dictionary meaning of empowerment has many connotations, but the actual real life application of it is, as we grow up through our childhood, adolescence, adulthood, through our relationships, through our jobs, every action has a thought process associated with it which needs a reaction. If we are expecting the reaction to be in a way that we anticipated it to, and it is not, then we say feminism, disempowerment, we are not empowered, somebody's not giving something. If you did the job well, a lot of people ask me this, is there some kind of bias against funding women? It's not true. The investor that sits across the table is looking not for a great idea. He's looking to make money from that idea. And if you can convince him that you can give him that, then you are empowered and you will get that funding. Problem is, most of the times women sit across the table, and I have seen this in real life, scenarios where I'm looking at investing in a company, and the woman starts by saying, I'm a techie. I do not have a co-founder who understands marketing and finance, but I'm looking to hire one, and I have 2 kids at home. Well, you just became disempowered. You came to talk business. Stick to the point. Nobody wants to know where you came from. Nobody really cares where you're going. You talk about business and you want money, then you stick to that. Similarly, you go to the bank and you say, you scream, under Mudra, nobody is getting loan. Under Stand Up India, nobody is getting loan. I raised 1 crore rupees under the CGTS MSME scheme for my manufacturing company. And you know what it required? It required a solid business plan that allowed the bank to see that I have a vision in place to return that money with interest. They don't want another Vijay Mallya, for sure. So if you did not get that loan, it's purely because your proposal was not competent, not because you were a woman. So the process of empowerment happens in different steps. And it comes with you acknowledging that whatever you have, within the capacity you have, whatever your parents are able to give you or you are able to create for yourself is your empowerment. Don't look at any one of us to tell you you're good. That is the biggest problem. Stop seeking external approval of your individuality. Your identity is who you are and who you will end up being. Nobody else decides your challenges.
Shubhrastha, I think she wants to add. But just very quick, because we are completely out of time.
I'll
now.
just say one thing, that gender neutral values cannot be seen from gendered prisms. If you are talking about empowerment, how can it be about a man's perspective or a woman's perspective? It has to be a human perspective. And I have huge problems with labels like women writer, women entrepreneur. You are a writer and an entrepreneur. Stop calling yourself a woman and making your point about politics or economy being seen from a gendered lens. Stop doing that.
So I think with that we've come to the end. And just as a footnote, I would like to add that all the women that you heard today and saw today sitting in this panel are, you see the confidence with which they spoke today and the confidence with which they continue their work and lead their lives. It all comes to them because of their identity, but their identity only comes to them because they were already empowered. And at the end of it, I think, may it be a man or may it be a woman, we are all human beings first. And who decides the gender? It's just that one chromosome that decides our gender, and that is also given by a man. So in the end, let's give a huge round of applause to the men in our lives also.
Thank you, Pallavi ji, for the wonderful session.
Makaranji has asked me to give vote of thanks. This is the first time I'm doing it. Never in my life I have given vote of thanks. So thank you, I'll remember. But I must confess, I have attended more feminism conferences and panels than lots of women, because it's an area of my interest. And in my book, I have written in detail about women in every single speech, whether it's on economics or whether it's on politics or whether it's on sports. I always dedicate 2-3 minutes talking about women and all those things. But I must congratulate you, this audience and people. This is the best panel discussion I've ever heard on feminism in India. And I must also thank you for speaking from your hearts. There was no politics. Normally, all the feminist debates end up in left and right. It didn't happen. I'm very happy you also acknowledge man. My only 2 cents is, no war in this world can be won by excluding the stronger group. The feminism war cannot be won by excluding men.
We love you. That's what we said in the beginning.
And thank you for loving me. Thank you for being so patient. And I thank the organizers and everybody, all the women in this.